Welcome to another edition of Florida Sportsman Action Spotter Podcast. Hey, you know what this is all about? We're going to have a great time this evening. We're going to travel around the state of Florida and check in with the preeminent captains in each area to find out how the fishing is. How was it this week? How's it been overall? How's it looking going into June? What's biting and how we get them? That's what we're out to find out, and I think we're going to be successful tonight. We're going to start it all up in Northeast Florida with our buddy Captain David Voorhees. We'll bring it down the East Coast, up the West Coast, and out through the Panhandle. Now, Captain David Voorhees will be brought to you along with all of our action spotters this week by Yamaha, reliability starts here, by Shimano, bringing people and nature together, by Tournament Master Chum, the best chum on earth, by Nosara Paradise Rentals, your dream vacation, by DOA Lures, the unfair advantage, and by Young Boats. You want the finest in flat, spay, and offshore hybrid boats? You need to check out youngboats.com. So let's get her rolling and check in with Captain David Voorhees. He knows every fish in Jacksonville by their first name. Captain David, how we doing?
Hey, I'm doing fine, Captain Ricky, doing fine.
Now, if I'm right, you've taught me a few things about inshore fishing I didn't know, one of them being the importance of the lunar cycle. If I'm right, the moon's been slowing you boys down a little bit. Is that right?
It has. And I talked to several captains this week. We sort of been in communication. Everybody, I can always tell when the bite is tough, because all of a sudden everybody starts calling each other. Are you on fish? Are you on fish? It's almost like when nobody's talking, when the grapevine's not active, people are on good fish. But when it's been tough, like it's been this week, everybody's calling each other to see, what are you doing? Here's what I'm doing. But several captains told me this week they saw redfish they just couldn't get to. And, these are some of the guys that fish in the Pathfinders and some of the bigger boats. And they're all wishing they had a skinny flats boat like myself. But, sometimes when we're between these moon phases, like we've been this past week, you just don't get the tide to empty out very low. And a lot of people are totally unfamiliar with Northeast Florida, but a lot of our creeks that access the intercoastal, if they get to a certain height, they're actually impossible to penetrate because every one of these creek mouths have very shallow sandbars at the mouth of them. So on these tides like we've had the last 3 or 4 days, it's really hard to get back in the creeks unless you're a kayaker. And I'm sure they've been doing pretty good, but it's almost hard to fish. And in the mouth of the creeks that are usually producing just didn't produce this week. So I stuck with my deep water jigging. We caught some nice fish this week. Several oversized reds and quite a few very small flounder. I think I caught probably about 15 flounder this week, and Rick, out of the 15, I think maybe 3 of them were keepers. So, seeing a lot of small ones, what we call potato chips. But you know what? Hey, I would rather see that than see no flounder at all.
Oh yeah.
Trout, I'm totally not even fishing for them. I mean, I don't know. I don't think they've gone to night feeding yet because it's still pretty cool. The water temperature's still in the mid to upper 70s. But we're just not seeing the number of trouts. I know some of the guys this time of year will actually do better way up in the river than along the intercoastal, which is where I'm fishing. But redfish, for the most part, it's been slow this week. But what I have done and what I find on a lot of these days is I look for some structure. We don't have a lot of structure around here to say, but what I do love to fish are docks. And I have found several good docks in the area that are really holding some nice redfish. But what I found this week, Rick, was some just outstanding mangrove snapper. And I'm talking, better than 12 inches, which for us, I know, you get down to South Florida and they'd laugh at the fish and snapper we catch inshore. They'd turn their nose up at them, but we don't see those big ones inshore. They, by the time they get, end of the year, they'll head offshore and they'll grow up offshore. We don't get those nice-sized mangroves inshore like Central and South Florida does. But what we're seeing this week seems to be a little bit bigger than normal. And, on a slow day of fishing, I'll take a few of those in the boat any day of the week.
Oh, heck yes. And I love eating them. And, David, it seems to me, looking at the calendar, they're about a month and a half early, aren't they?
Rick, we've been saying that. A lot of the guides around here noticed the ladyfish showed up real early this year. They're one of our first summer species. Like you guys offshore, you see the Spanish mackerel come up first and the bluefish or whatever. Inshore, we the first summer fish we see that show up is going to be the jacks and the ladyfish. Well, the ladyfish have been here for months now, and it's, we thought that was really unusual. And I'm not talking just little bitty ladyfish. I'm talking some really, big fat mamas. And, even though we haven't hit the first day of summer, I consider June 1st really like the first day of summer. So I think, I say summer's here. We did see a sea bass today. We're seeing sea rock. All our summer species are already here, and they're here in abundance. So summer is full on as far as I'm concerned here. And I do think that's a little early, Rick.
I'm with you, and let me tell you what, if the mangrove snapper are going to be 13, 14 inches instead of 4 to 6 inches this year, I'm 100% in favor of it. I promise you that.
Absolutely.
Hey, David, please tell me we can check in with you next week. We always appreciate the education that you give us on Northeast Florida inshore waters, and we look forward to talking with you next week.
Yeah, Rick, and hopefully maybe next week we'll have an offshore report, you think?
Man, the wind ever going to quit blowing? I tell you what, I
don't know, Rick. I feel sorry for some of you offshore guys. I know I saw sargassum weed all around Atlantic Boulevard today. Mm-hmm. When I showed that to my clients, I said, guys, what does that tell you? All these big snowbirds are headed north. All these big yachts are running up the intercoastal. So I said, yeah, it's definitely too rough for them to run offshore right now.
Yeah, it has been. And every day we wait for it to calm down, and someday we'll be right. Thank you, Cap. We always appreciate it.
All right, Ricky. Tight line.
Take
buddy.
care. Captain David Voorhees with a great Northeast Florida report. Now, let's head on downstate and see what we can get into. Now, let's go down to my favorite little fishing village. In fact, I haven't been there, since today, and talk with our buddy, Captain John Earhart. John, how are you?
I'm good. Glad to be here.
Man, we're proud to have you. I was fortunate enough to fish right next to you today, so I know fishing's awfully good in Stewart.
Yes, sir. Yeah. If you can make it out, which typically in June I picture it being flat calm, but we've had some rougher than average weather. But if you get out there, there's plenty of sailfish around. We went 2 for 3 today. We saw 5. We had a couple kingfish bites mixed in. The kings were anywhere from 10 to 15 pounds, so nice sized kingfish for the smoker. Caught 1 out of 2 blackfins up to 20 pounds. And we caught a couple nice gaffer dolphins up to 20 pounds too. So, sailfish, blackfin tuna, kingfish, and mahi. What more can you ask for when you're only 55 miles offshore?
You can't ask for more than that. And the other thing is, you and I didn't have a whole lot of company out there today. But guess who the rocket scientist is that thought yesterday morning before that north wind came up that it would be a good idea to run down to Hobe Sound? That didn't work out too well because the weather has missed the report rather badly lately. What are you hearing about inshore? What's going on down there?
Well, the inshore fishing's been pretty steady for snook. Start to see that annual spawn in the St. Lucie Inlet. Larger breeding fish going to congregate around the rock piles. If you're catching big fish, bump up your tackle, get a quick picture, get them back in the water and release them so they can continue to do their thing. Because we want to have plenty more fish next season. A lot of tarpon in the mix too, migrating up and down the beach. And then we've had some in the river along the channel edges. And fishing a big mullet or a live pilchard is going to be your go-to for those tarpon right now. Some big jacks mixed in as well. You can catch those fishing structure around docks, bridges, out around the channel edges, fishing pilchards or mullet as well. So it's been pretty good fishing. Snook fishing's good. Some tarpon around, big jacks mixed in. Plenty of action.
John, if you had to pick one live bait for your inshore fishing, what would it be?
A pilchard.
A pilchard inshore. All right. What would your one live bait be for your offshore?
A live threadfin.
Oh, you like a threadfin better than a sardine?
Yeah, they show up. They show up good this time of year. And when I'm targeting sailfish, if I have a live well full of threadfins, I know I'm going to hook a sailfish.
I like it. I don't disagree with you a bit. Well, Cap, I enjoyed fishing next to you. I'm sorry I almost ran over your kite bait. I didn't see your kite till it was almost too late.
No worry. I always enjoy having friends in my company.
Yep, we were all just about all by ourselves out there today, and it was a whole lot of fun, I tell you what. Well, Cap, I can't wait to get back down there. I'll be there next week. Until then, please tell me we can check in with you next week.
Yep, I'll have a good sailfish report for you next week.
I know you will, and I tell you what, I think all those people that come down there for the wintertime to get in on the sailfish bite are nuts. I think you and I have got it figured out. Summertime is the time for us.
Yes, sir.
You got it. Well, I'll see you next week, John. Thank you so much.
Take care, Rick.
Take care, buddy. Our thanks to Captain John Earhart for a great offshore steward report, and with what's happening with the bait inshore, the boys down there are happy that summertime is here. Hey, keep in mind, Captain John and all of our action spotters are brought to you by Yamaha. Reliability starts here. By Shimano, bringing people and nature together. By Tournament Master Chum, the best chum on earth. By Nosara Paradise Rentals, your dream vacation. By DOA Lures, the unfair advantage. And by Young Boats. You want the finest in flat, spay, and offshore hybrids? You need to check out youngboats.com. Let's head a little bit further south and see what the mayor of South Beach is up to, Captain Alan Sherman. Alan, how we doing?
I'm doing great, Rick. And yourself?
Good, buddy. I got a little word from you this week. Sound like your fishing was pretty good.
We've had some pretty decent fishing, but we've had some pretty decent weather. So when we get one, we get the other.
I got you.
Yes, and it's been pretty decent all around. Last week, right up to the holiday weekend, I fished 4 out of 5 days, and then on Saturday I headed down to Alamorada where I took a little time off, no fishing rods, and met up with some people that had a boat and did something I never do, and that's get in the water and just relax.
What? What?
Yeah, I know.
What? You took time off with no fishing rods? I don't think that's legal. I don't think that's legal.
Well, people were looking at me kind of funny, like something was wrong. But, I didn't feel guilty, not one bit. We had a great week the week before. I fished 3 days in Biscayne Bay and 1 day in Flamingo, and they were all productive. Flamingo, we had redfish in the slot, over slot, undersized. We had snook. We had tarpon on for a jump. And we had a lot of nice sea trout that created a backcountry slam. A lot of small snook. Biggest one we had ate a lure and then got eaten by a shark. Biscayne Bay has been pretty good. We've had yellow jacks up to 11 pounds in a number of them. Some nice jack crevalles. I mentioned the gag grouper. We got a nice gag on a surface lure, a Savage Gear backlip diver. Hit it right off the surface, and that was really cool. Just undersized, but to get one to come up on the surface like that was a blast. We released a few, and we got a nice mutton about 20 inches for the bay. That's not a bad fish this time of the year.
No, it's not a bad fish anywhere, Cap.
And then we had quite a few barracudas up to about 10 or 12 pounds. So lots of action in the bay, in Flamingo. Now, I haven't been offshore, but I did hear some reports on the offshore fishing. I didn't hear anything about this week, but last week we had some bluefin tunas passing by.
How about that?
And the guys were they were all excited about it, but nobody really had the gear to target them, so they just watched them go. This is typical this time of the year. Every year in May, June, guys hook up on big fish that they never get to see, and all they get to see actually is an empty spool of line because it doesn't take those guys very long to empty a reel. But besides the bluefins, there's been quite a few sailfish around, kingfish, blackfin tunas, And then there's been dolphin around, but the dolphin are still very scattered. The guys are catching them right on the western wall of the Gulf Stream on out to 1,200 feet of water or more. And these fish have been under birds, under debris, and along weed lines. And there's a lot of undersized fish as well, but they're out there. So anybody looking to catch them, you get out there early and start looking for the birds and just keep heading out until you spot something and then get some baits in the water. But, the fishing's there. Some of the guys have been targeting the wrecks on the bottom with live baits like pinfish and ballyhoo and the speedos. And they're getting some really nice black groupers, a few, 10, 12, 15-pound muttons as well. I've seen a couple of small cuberas brought in. So the fishing's been good. Got to get out there, Rick.
Good. I understand it. I've been out there the last couple of days and been mighty glad I was there. I promise you. I tell you, I love fishing all year, but that May, June time frame, boy, right around the end of May, 1st of June, don't make me miss a day's fishing if it's pretty, because that's my favorite time of year, Alan.
Mine as well. I'm off the week this whole coming week. I'm changing boats.
Yeah.
I'm taking my 22 Pathfinder in and putting it on consignment, and then I'm going to take possession on a 24 Pathfinder at the end of the week.
Good for you.
Yeah.
All right, well, that's a great deal, Alan. I know people will enjoy the upgrade to the bigger boat. You've got a lot of longtime customers, and I'm certain will be very comfortable in that boat. That's a nice one. Thank you, Cap. We appreciate it ever so much.
Hey, anytime, Rick.
Thanks, Alan. Talk to you next week. Right. Bye-bye.
Take care. Bye-bye.
Our thanks to Alan Sherman for a great Miami report. Now we get to head on down to Kokomo. We're going to Islamorada. You can't beat that. If I'm going to Islamorada, I'm going to Bud & Mary's, and I'm going to have a cool drink with my buddy Nick Stancic. Nick, how are you?
Oh, we're doing pretty good, Rick. How are you?
Excellent. Tell me about fishing in Islamorada. I know it's never bad, but how good was it this week?
We finally got some pretty good weather, which was nice to see because it has been very windy the past 6 months. But the dolphins showed up in good numbers. A lot of boats, and mostly schoolies, but, keeper-sized fish, not having to measure many of them, and a few slammers mixed in. So we saw a lot of dolphin, and we got out sword fishing a couple of days. Had one good day where we got two small ones, and late in the day we got a big one, a 358 pounder.
Oh, that's a good one.
That was the right one, and we caught that. We let one go, and we caught a small keeper. About 6 hours later, and we marked a big fish. The guy goes, "Can we make one more drop?" I'm like, "Yeah, let's do one more." And we hooked a big one, so it pays off sometimes just put in that extra effort.
Oh, that's you doggone right it does, and that's one of the reasons it makes you so very successful is that you'll put in the extra effort if things don't go the way you want them to. Well, that's a fish of a lifetime right there. I can promise you your customers will never forget that. Nick, do you have guys mount swordfish very often?
Some of them do. Yeah, a lot of them do the bills because, the bill's an actual bone.
Right.
They'll dry that out and we'll have ours do it. But, we mount some, not a ton, but, we might mount a couple fish a month, maybe a fish or two a month, so we definitely mount a handful of them.
Yeah, I have always believed, I kind of feel like swordfish use their bills more than most billfish. That thing's a deadly weapon when it comes to attacking a bait, isn't it?
Oh, yeah. Yeah, it's definitely a tool.
Yeah, it's sharp as it can be. Well, that's good going on all the mahi. I'm glad to hear about that, too. I hope they make their way up the coast. Thanks so much, Nick. Please tell me we can check in with you next week.
We'll be here. Give us a shout, Rick.
You got it. Captain Nick Stancic from the Broad-Minded out of Bud & Mary's in Islamorada, Florida. Now we're going to work our way over to 10,000 Islands and check in on Steve Dahl. Steve, how are you?
I'm doing great, Rick. How you doing this week?
I'm doing fine, doing well. Tell me what's going on in 10,000 Islands.
Well, we got a kind of a cool bite going on right now, and we only get it for a couple weeks of the year, and we're in it right now. And so we're kind of in between a full moon and a new moon. In about 8 or 9 days, I think, we're approaching our new moon. But this last full moon that we just had last week, every May has kind of really fired up the female snook. And really where we're at is every month of May, we have just a plethora of big female breeding snook that inhabit are like sandy beaches, hard bottom shoals. They relate to this really shallow cover. And when it comes time to do their thing, if you will, they're going offshore, and they're doing it pretty much. They're setting up on the nearest nearshore reefs and wrecks that they can to get a little privacy and get away from predators, not feel as vulnerable. And we're at basically 3 stages of the spawn right now. We got pre-spawn fish, we've got spawning fish, and then we've also got post-spawn fish. And it's pretty cool because you can target these a whole bunch of different ways. But one technique that we've kind of refined, and I'm a little reluctant to tell it, but I'm going to tell it anyway because it works and everybody should do it. And I think it's actually a very efficient way to fish for these fish. And what we're doing is we're actually setting up on these reefs and wrecks, and we're deploying very large swim baits, probably 5, 6 inches in length, ounce and a half jig heads, super stout hooks, and you can fish them vertically a little bit, but what you can really do is cast them, let them sink, get down to the cover, and feel your way through the structure, if you will. So you're going to make some contact, and as soon as it makes contact with something, you kind of rip it a little bit, and it gets a reaction bite out of a neutral fish, if that makes sense.
Sure it does.
So you can literally put a filter down there, and they won't eat it because it's almost too natural, and we've got a lot of bait in the area this time of year, but you put something a little different down there that obviously mimics a bait fish, but it has an erratic, that as soon as you hit structure, and that it kind of doesn't look as natural. It almost looks erratic and like a fleeing bait fish, and it just gets a reaction bite on a fish. And so it's a really cool way to take, some big snook and multiple ones of them. And we don't really get this where they're that concentrated, any time of the year, but this, late May, early June type of pattern. And so that's kind of what we've been doing. I fully anticipate that kind of going through the maybe first 8-9 days of June here. And nobody's doing it. Everyone's talking about American red snapper going offshore this first week. You'll have a lot of this stuff to yourself if you do it. The only thing I do ask is that understand fish are truly in all 3 stages of the spawn. If that fish doesn't have to be removed from the water, probably don't do it if you don't have to. There are some 38 to 42-inch fish in there. Those are big fish in our area. And, if you do have to get the photo, make sure all your stuff is ready. Your camera person's all set and ready. The fish stays maybe in the net in the water. If you don't have to net it, even better. And then just a quick grin and grab. Make sure your hands are wet. Let's protect these breeder stock fish. It's such a critical fish for us, but they are bunched up and ready to bite. I mean, they're down there. So, and there's not really any particular topography, if you will. It's just find your best nearshore wreck and reef. A lot of these are public numbers that you can find, and they're just looking for that safe haven of kind of going out, a little bit offshore, getting away from all the pressure and the predators, and they're kind of recouping out there a little bit. So give it a whirl because not a lot of people are doing it.
Gotcha. No, that sounds like a very good idea. And you're right. I have very often seen 25 guys fishing the same live bait as natural as it can be, and it doesn't entice the fish they want. And then here comes a guy with a flare hawk or, something just totally different, and it fires off a bite. So, no, that's great advice. Yeah. I think you better take extra tails with you. I think you're going to get hung up in some of that structure, but that's a small price to pay for a snook that good. And, Steve, I got to tell you, all around the state, I just love seeing the care that guys are giving these snook. These big snook that we used to see on a nail at the fish camp, whole stringers of them and such. Man, it's good to see them taken care of like a brand new baby, isn't it?
It sure is, especially our area down in the 10,000 Islands. In 2010, we're almost, 11 years removed from that. But we had a horrible fish kill, if everybody remembers. We had 9 straight days where, air temperatures didn't get above 50 degrees. And we had we lost so many fish.
Oh, yeah.
It was unbelievable.
I know.
And to see it rebound, it's not all that long ago. And a lot of it is, due to the fact that fishermen are just that much more educated on conservation, how to handle fish, catch and release. Selective harvest. It's actually, I tip my hat, and Florida Sportsman does a great job being advocates for all of that. So it's just great to see.
I sure hope it goes on forever. Steve, as always, we appreciate it. Sounds like fishing's awfully good down there right now. I know the red snapper boys are happy that the season's over, but there's a lot more to it than just red snapper this time of year. It's my favorite time of year. Please tell me we can check back with you next week.
I'll probably be a little tired from catching all these big snook all week, but I'll definitely check in.
All right, buddy. Thank you, Steve.
All right, buddy. Bye.
Our thanks to Captain Steve Dahl, who says things are cooking in the 10,000 Islands. Big snook starting to bunch up. I'm mighty glad to hear it. I'll bet I know somebody else is catching big snook right now. Captain Greg Stamper. Greg, are you with us?
I'm with you, and yes, the snook are full speed right now.
Good deal. I love watching people, the changes in attitude about snook over the last 20, 30 years. Remember when we used to see them hanging on the nails in the pictures?
Yeah, that's not going to happen anymore. I think a lot more people respect what they have. And
That's right.
They let them go. Let's be honest, they are good eating. They're not open right now in our neck of the woods, and most people don't really care.
Yep, they'll go snook fishing now, whether the snook are open or not. They'll catch them and let them go. Yep.
Well, just today alone, Rick, we caught a whole bunch of snook. I had a 4-year-old. I don't know how big your biggest snook was when you were 4, but I had a 4-year-old today that did it literally by himself with just a little bit of help from his grandpa holding the top of the rod, above the handle, just so it didn't go anywhere and I didn't want to lose a couple $100. He caught a 28-incher today by himself.
How good is that? That I had the pleasure of fishing my two of my grandsons the last couple days and catching sailfish. They've caught sailfish now, and they caught a big tuna and all. And let me tell you, I pray that those boys will never forget fishing with their grandpa. And I doubt that 4-year-old will ever forget fishing with his grandpa.
I'm pretty sure the 4-year-old I had today, Rick, will not forget because he had a list of fish he's caught and an entire list of fish he wants to catch.
How about that? That's fantastic.
Yeah, that's good. Isn't that great?
It's the best.
I can tell you something else, though. Just moving on. Snook fishing has been fantastic. Red fishing hasn't been all that great for me this week. I didn't put a ton of time into it, but when I did, it wasn't awesome. The trout fishing has slowed down a little bit, but the guys that are north of me up in Pine Island Sound and that area are doing very well with those big trout. And then big for us right now, Rick, is 23, 24 inches max. We haven't had these giant fish show up again because we lost them all for a while. But let's move to the offshore guys because those guys have been going out there. And I do know some commercial guys that were able to get out there earlier than, when people can go for these red snapper. Rick, have we talked about red snapper? They're everywhere, right?
Yeah, they are. Yep.
All right. So the guys that went out there and did some commercial stuff for me, they were out there at about 110, 120, 130 feet, did very well. They caught all kinds of stuff. Obviously, they caught snappers. They caught groupers. They caught a whole bunch of other things as far as lane snappers, vermilion, a few vermilions, not a lot. But they did do very well on hogfish, which I was impressed with because in my neck of the woods, we don't really ever catch hogfish. So they must have gotten to a honey hole out there.
That's really good. You don't hear a lot about hogfish, certainly in your area. Now, further north of you, it's become a staple. The guys are fishing for them every day.
Yeah, I know. I wish I had that. Other than that, Rick, it's been all about the tarpon fishing on the beaches. If we get these winds that are from the east, northeast, southeast, we talked about before, it really lays down and allows you to fish in that first 4 or 5 miles from the beach out and be able to see these fish. I had the opportunity this week of fishing a guy. We went out very early in the morning. The tide was pretty much slack. I said, well, he wanted to catch a big tarpon. I said, let's just try. I cut up some catfish tails, threw them out there, and sure enough, we got a nice pot of tarpon that came by, and he got one that was about 150 pounds.
Whoa,
Huge.
that's a fat one.
Oh, no. It was an hour and a half fight, and I don't even like fighting them that long, but he wanted to do it. We did it. We got it done. And after that, you know what he wanted to do? He wanted to go catch a trout.
Yeah, catch something a little friendlier. Yeah, I understand that. Yeah, my days of desiring 150-pound tarpon have come and gone. But,
Me too, Rick.
One of the things I love about Sailfish, 20 minutes of hot action and he's gone. Just the way we like it.
I'm with you.
Cap, that sounds like an absolutely fantastic report. I'm sure the guys are getting it done on red snapper down there, just like they are all through the Gulf, and I'm glad to see that anyway. Glad to see it back open. Please tell me we can check in with you next week.
Absolutely. I'm sure I'll have lots of red snapper stories.
Good deal. Thank you so much. Captain Greg Stamper from Snook Stamp Charters down in Southwest Florida.
You know what Yamaha Outboards love? The genuine formula and consistency of Yamalu marine engine oils. Outboards are subjected to punishing conditions like high loads, salt, and humidity, a mix that automotive oils can't handle. Yamalu full synthetic and marine performance formulas are certified to protect against friction and corrosion for reliable performance every time. Find Yamalu marine oils at your nearest Yamaha Outboard dealer. Locate them at yamahaoutboards.com/dealers. Yamaha, reliability starts here.
Hey, Raj, being consistent is a mark of a quality product. If you've been Florida's #1 chum for over 10 years, there's got to be a reason.
For 10 years, Tournament Master Chum has lived up to its name. That's why more tournament pros insist on Tournament Master than any other chum. It's the only chum with Menhaden milk mixed right in. That means it gets the scent out faster and deeper than any other brand of chum. It comes in a grind size for every species from kingfish to catching bait. Your fishing time is way too precious to you second-rate chum. Bring the action to you by insisting on Tournament Master Chum. It's worth every penny.
When you're ready for the finest in custom-made flat spay or inshore-offshore hybrids, you are ready to meet the Young family in Inglis, Florida. For over 21 years, the Young family has built custom boats one at a time for every type of fishing. Nothing can sneak up on a flat quite like the Gulf Shore flats boats, and I've never fished a better hybrid than the Young 24s and 27s. Rob Young is a naval architect who takes tremendous pride in each and every build for each and every customer that wants their boat custom built exactly the way they want it. Is it time for you to move up? Are you ready to own the finest boat built? Then you need to visit the Young Boat facility in Inglis, Florida, or check them out online at youngboats.com. Now let's move up to West Central and check in with Captain Ray Markham. Raymond, how are you?
Fantastic, Captain Ricky, just surviving the storm.
I got you. Hey, let me ask you a question.
Sure.
And I know that you're a lure thrower. I know that your fish are almost all caught on artificial. But if you could pick one live bait to fish inshore, what would it be?
White bait.
Okay. Which is another name essentially for a pilchard,
Scale
right?
Sardine. Pilchard, scale sardine. Yeah,
Yep.
it's all the
Okay.
same thing.
What if you had one to fish offshore?
Gee, what kind of fish we fishing for?
You tell me.
Well, if you're fishing for kingfish, I'd probably go with like a big blue runner.
Okay. Okay.
Fishing for grouper depends on where you go. I mean, it can be anything from big pinfish to cigar minnows, Spanish sardines.
You only get one. You got to pick your favorite.
I don't really have a favorite live bait.
Okay. Okay.
Okay. Now, I probably should have qualified the inshore thing too, for time of year, because in the time of year, if it's wintertime, I'm going to fish shrimp. If it's summer and spring and fall, it would probably be white bait.
Okay.
So,
all you live bait fishermen, you just got put down, so you know. Just in case you missed that, Ray's looking down on you. All right, what are you hearing from all?
I'd rather fool them than feed them, Ricky.
What do you? I got you. I like that. Can I steal that? I'd rather fool them than feed them. I like that.
It's all year.
Tell me what you're hearing from offshore. How's the snapper bite?
Well, I actually haven't heard anything yet for the snapper bite, seeing as though today is the first day of the season for federally permitted vessels, and a lot of those guys they're gone for like 2 days.
I got you.
They're maybe even 3 days, but they'll come in probably with a couple of limits tomorrow and sit there and brag on the dock and can't wait to get back out again.
Yep.
So I am guessing it's going to be just off the hook.
It is.
A couple weeks ago, I was hearing from guys that were fishing 45 feet of water off of Dunedin Clearwater area and catching red snapper.
Oh, my word.
That's way shallow, but they're, again, probably most of them are a lot smaller than what you're going to be seeing up there beyond about 120 feet of water. But those guys getting out offshore and way offshore are going to get some of the big boys, I'm sure.
Yeah.
No question. But that group are open again today too, so everything's going to be hitting the dock and guys sharpening knives and stuff today, I think. So.
Yep. And if you are not a fisherman and you want a fresh piece of grouper or a fresh piece of snapper for dinner, probably wait about 2 more days and let that first round of boats come in, and there's going to be some real fresh fish on the dock, isn't there?
Oh, I believe that's right.
Yeah.
That's for sure. Yeah, I've already got my order put in.
I'm with you. All right, Cap, we appreciate it. That sounds very good. Now, what are you hearing? Anything inshore to speak of?
Yeah, actually, the trout fishing has been very good.
Good.
Of course, everything's really changed. I mean, we just opened trout and redfish north of State Route 64 today, and the redfish south of 64, which is Manatee Avenue in Bradenton, is still closed, but they have opened trout. Trout, instead of having 3 per person, they're going to have 3 per person with a 6 per boat limit down south of 64. So that limit's going to be a little bit different than it is north of us here, or north of that area. So up in Tampa Bay, guys are going to have the regular season just as it normally would have been had this never occurred. So, here we go.
Well, Ray, I think maybe I'm feeling optimistic tonight. I think I probably am. I'm just feeling like guys are learning, and I'm just hoping that they learn. You know what? I'd like a fresh trout for dinner tomorrow night, but I'm not going to freeze them, so I think I'll let the rest of mine go. I mean, maybe I'm being Pollyannish, but I hope that's how it turns out.
I think you might be right, Pollyanna.
Gotcha. Captain Markham, as always, we appreciate it. Please tell me we can check in with you next week.
Yeah, buddy. Look forward to it.
Thank you, Ray. All right, thanks to Ray Markham for a great West Central report. Let's move on up into the Big Bend area and stop in Homosassa. And you better be looking for it because you'll miss it if you don't. But we stopped to check in with Captain William Toney. William, how are you?
Doing good, Rick. Sitting right here at downtown Homosassa, watching the grouper guys come in today.
Ooh, 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 ooh. I bet they had some pretty fish.
Absolutely. They've been doing well, catching, starting around 18 to 30 foot's been the range, using live pinfish on the bottom. Plus, you're heading out a little deeper, 50 to 60 foot, getting those red snapper.
They're both open now, right?
Absolutely.
Oh, that's great for the fishermen out there. There's no doubt. I hope they play it smart, William. I hope they take care of the fish, and when they've got their limit, they go do something else. I hope they do all the right things. I'm just so hopeful that our newer fishermen especially are going to learn what, unfortunately, you and I did not learn as real young men.
Absolutely. I agree with you, Rick. There's a, case in point, I was on a redfish spot here recently, and what I've been doing, normally if I find a good school of fish, I let my anglers know, if y'all want to catch your limit. And then what I do is pull away very quietly and get out of there and move on. And, we're not going to sit here and sore mouth them and everything like that. But one particular morning I went to go into my spot and someone had beat me there. And, that's all fine and good in the world of fishing. I got other spots, but I was, probably half a mile away within eyesight. And those two anglers sat there for probably about 2.5 to 3 hours. On those fish. And, it basically, there's only 2 guys. You can only keep 2. So, the rest of the time you're just sore mouthing them and just kind of taking it away from other anglers having a chance if they want to have some black and red fish.
Yep. Yeah, I understand what you're saying. I tell you what, I spent many a year running a boat with a tuna tower on it, and I would be in the tower. And back when mahi were real thick, I figured it out a few years ago. We would take our guests out to the rip and hook an ice double, a dolphin, and I would pull off of the rip while we fought the fish, and then we'd get the fish in. We fish lighter tackle in most boats. We'd get the fish in. We'd gaff them. They'd take pictures, okay, and we'd get all the lines put back out, and then pretty soon I'd yell, wait a minute, we got another rip coming up here. We might get another bite. I bounced off of that same rip all day. And William, I might have only had a dozen dolphin when a lot of the boats had 30 or 40. But my people had such a good time. You understand what I'm saying? I mean,
that's what it's about. Yep.
Here's the worst thing that can happen on this charter boat. At 1 o'clock in the afternoon, a line goes off screaming, and everybody looks at each other and says, "No, I got the last one. You get it. No, I don't want you get it." You've ruined the experience.
Yep. Absolutely. They should be fighting to grab on that rod, and hopefully with the gag grouper limits and everything like that set. A lot of one thing too is fuel and expense and all that. And I hope that grouper anglers out there make the right decision. If that fish is 24.5 and legal, and throat hook, put it in the box.
That's right.
Don't toss it over for a bigger one. Don't cull. It's just best. Like I just like, you got two choices on my vessel. You're going to keep that fish if it's legal, or he's going right back in and in good health. So, that's just try not to pick and choose when you're out there, and, don't hammer out a rock too much, and move on and move out and get what you want, and then target something else.
Well said, Captain William Toney. We appreciate it as always so much, Cap. Please tell me we can check with you next week.
Yep, I'll be right here in downtown Homosassa, and we get a little closer. We'll start talking about them scallops.
Keep them straight, Cap. We'll be over there soon. Thank you. Captain William Toney's report and all of our action spotters were brought to you by Yamaha. Reliability starts here. By Shimano, bringing people and nature together. By Tournament Master Chum, the best chum on earth. By Nosara Paradise Fishing, your dream vacation. By DOA Lures, the unfair advantage. And by Young Boats. You want the finest in flat spay and offshore hybrids, you want to check out youngboats.com. It is time to check in with who I believe will be a very happy man, Captain Kevin Lanier. Kevin, are you with us?
Captain Rick, I'm with you.
I predict you have caught a red snapper in the last 24 hours.
You are correct, sir.
I'm brilliant.
The only reason I didn't get one at midnight is I had to run out in the daylight.
I got you. Tell me how it was.
Hey, well, of course, our wonderful weather people did a terrible job hitting the forecast again. So it was rough as all get out, but we got out there today. We got our limit of red snapper on 2 different trips. It was great. We got a nice gag grouper, just phenomenal. It was great to be able to put them in the boat instead of having to throw them back like we have the last couple of weeks. We loaded the boat. We had beeliners. We had gags. We had red snapper. Too bad triggers went out. We'd had them too.
Yep. That's the downside. I hate it when triggers are closed for you guys over there, because they don't close over here, and I'm scared that our council over here is going to get the idea to close them, because, do I love me some triggerfish.
Oh, absolutely.
Yep. Are you hearing anything else? Anybody doing anything with snapper fishing?
Well, most of the guys I talked to were also federal, because it just opened for federal today.
Right.
And it opens for recreational over here on the 4th. So we've got a few days. Most of the guys that got out and all did well, caught their fish. It was a really great day, and it was one of those days you look forward to all year and get excited for, and prep the gear and do all those things you do before you're looking forward for a big fishing trip.
I know the feeling indeed. I certainly do. How's the size of your fish?
We were in the 18 to 24 inch fish today. No real big sows, but we got a lot of good quality fish.
I'd rather eat a smaller one.
Oh, I'm with you. I'd rather eat a smaller one or a beeliner.
You got it. You got it. Cap, that's an outstanding report. I'm glad to hear it's going well for you. I want you to work hard on them this week, and you and I will talk next week if that's okay.
I will do my dead level best, Captain Rick. And we'll see you next week.
I know you will. Talk to you next week. Our thanks to Kevin Lanier. Hey, we always try to bring you up-to-the-minute reports. How about Captain Tyler Massey, who happens to be snapper fishing even as we speak? Tyler, how are you?
Well, good, Rick. How are you guys?
Good. You getting any bites?
Yeah. We actually just finished up our limit for our second trip today. It was a pretty good bite. So yeah, I mean it's always a good bite early in the season. Everyone can pretty much expect to catch some at least anytime they try. We're fishing smaller wrecks today, just a little bit closer to the beach. It's a little bit rough for us to make it too far offshore, but yeah, all the public wrecks around Pensacola are going to have some snapper on them, and then fish live bait if you can get some, but if not, some dead Boston mackerel or menhaden work great.
How was the size of your fish?
So this morning we had some nicer fish in the 15-pound range. This afternoon, they're all probably in the 20-inch range or so. No giants this afternoon, but we have some really nice ones this morning. So it's just getting started, and we got plenty of spots to fish, and we're looking forward to a good season.
Man, that's great. I'd rather eat a 20-incher than a 15-pounder, to be honest with you.
Me too.
Yeah, that's fantastic. Have you heard anything besides snapper the last few days, or snapper sucking all the air out of the room?
It is going to be the hot target for the next few weeks for sure. But a couple of the my friends, other charter boats, they caught a few wahoo today, actually high speed trawling on the way out. So that's a really good sign. There's a lot of flying fish around, just anywhere from 7-8 miles offshore on out further than that. So a lot of good bait in the area, and I think definitely produce some trolling right now as well.
That's fantastic. That's great news indeed. All right, well, here's hoping the weather holds for you. I know you're going to have plenty of trips running, so if it's all right with you, we're going to look forward to talking with you next week.
I'll be here, Rick. We'll see you.
We're going to put a wrap on what's been a fun trip around the state tonight. Boy, those West Coast boys were ready for snapper season, weren't they? I tell you, it's been a little tough. The weather's made it a little tough on everybody up in the Northeast area, although Captain David Borey said he's doing very well on mangrove snapper and catching some redfish. You work your way down the state. John Earhart is where the good news begins. They're catching sails. They're catching dolphin. They're catching tuna. They're doing well down there. You get down into Miami, and the action's been scattered. It's been pretty good in a lot of places, not dynamite anywhere. And once you get out west, it's all talking snapper and grouper. Working your way through the southwest section, up through the west coast of the state, and out up into the Big Bend. Everybody's fishing for snapper and grouper. There's an awful lot of good dinners being caught. Of course, we all know that the snapper set regulations are silly, but be that as it may, it's been pretty easy for everybody all the way out to the Panhandle to catch their limit of red snapper during their season. So remember, our action spotters are brought to you this week and every week by Yamaha. Reliability starts here. By Shimano, bringing people and nature together. By Tournament Master Chum, the best chum on earth. By Nosara Paradise Rentals, your dream vacation. By DOA Lures, the unfair advantage. And by Young Boats. You want the finest in flat span offshore hybrids? You need to check out youngboats.com. Hey, come on, it's June. Get out there, go fishing. The weather's going to lay down. It's going to be fantastic, and the fish are chewing all over Florida. Until next week, for Florida Sportsman Magazine Action Spotter Podcast, I'm Captain Riles, and I will see you on the rip.